Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jim Nowakowski, Interline Creative Group. We're going to be starting in about 3 minutes. So glad you're here with us. We got a packed house talking about my favorite topic, advertising. Look forward to talking to you. Stay tuned. Get your notepads out. Take copious notes. But remember, like always, we'll send you a PDF file of the slides when we're done. Hang in there. Talk to you soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. Again, Jim Nowakowski for Interline Creative Group. I see friendly faces and new faces in the audience. We got about 50, 60 people, so glad you're here. Variety of people. Some late signups. I didn't get all your websites. I love to look at your websites beforehand. We're talking about my favorite topic, advertising. Okay, I'm told I'm good. Everybody can hear me. There's a chat box. If you have a question, just put a question in there. I'll try to answer everything. They can hear me. Everything is good. Welcome, Tim. I see you can hear me now. That's great. Let's rock. This course is, in fact, registered for the AIA. If you're an architect like Tim and others in the audience, you can get an AIA credit, and we're so glad you're here. This is also NKBA accredited. So I know we have designers and showrooms in the audience listening in, so this is also credited. It's copyrighted. You're going to get a copy of the slides if you request them. I don't want to inundate you with, information. And this program is going to discuss how architects, designers, and the other professionals in my audience today can get a better understanding of the market. And I chose this graphic. I added this graphic just last week from Axios. I talked to Sarah Grillo, who wrote this, and what you're seeing here is a tsunami hitting this boat, right, of paper, of print. And we're in a very, very disruptive world, not just because of this coronavirus going on, which we're going to talk about, but also because advertising itself has been under siege for a very, very long time. And what I hope to do today is help you gain a better understanding of how to get your message out using the different tools in advertising. So as always, please ask your questions in the box. We're going to go make it an exchange. If you have a question, put it in the chat box, raise your hand, whatever, and I'll try to take them as we go, and I'll leave room at the end for answering them. I'm going to review business basics because, ladies and gentlemen, whether we're talking advertising in print, digital, whatever, direct mail, billboards, it doesn't really matter. The basics of business don't change. You need a buyer for what you sell, and you're trying to find them and communicate. And advertising is everything, and it's really everything these days. You know, they used to define advertising as an ad, blah, blah, blah. We're going to talk about that. But today, everything you do is advertising. I'm going to prove that to you as we go forward. And successful techniques, they include the advertising fundamentals, attract attention, know your audience. Those things never change, never. And we're going to learn how to respond to those particular needs. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, everybody out there. Here's some of the people out there. Like I said, I didn't have a chance to get everybody. We have manufacturers, we have architects, we have designers, we have distributors, we have all sorts of people. And I'm so glad you're here. We even have sites that can't be reached for whatever reason. I always like to start with a story. So once upon a time, there was a manufacturer of electrical substations, S&C Electric. You see their substations on the right. These are the people who control the electricity to and from the buildings that you work in, the residence, your residential homes that you live in, and they sell these things. And if you're saying, how much do these things cost, this is the bottom line figure. So once upon a time, my client, S&C Electric, had a make good. That means that they ran an ad in the incorrect issue of the publication, and the publication, in order to make up for that, because the advertiser, who was Wally Carlson at the time, a great guy, Battle of the Bulge guy, he said, I'm not going to give you any more money until you make up the mistake you made. So they gave him a little postcard. And in those days, what they would do is they would bundle postcards together in a little pack. You get these at home, Valpaks. You've gotten coupons in the mail, right? Well, in those days, B2B publishers used to do the same thing for a make good. They'd give the guy a postcard, and he would be among 100 other postcards, And they would mail the postcards to their list. And their list was basically qualified people who theoretically can buy this type of equipment, plant managers, etc. Wally told me this story, and I believe it's true, because what they did is that someone responded to that postcard and bought that piece of equipment, bought that multi-million-dollar piece of equipment. The ROI on that, what is the ROI on that? He got that postcard for free. So my point in telling you this story today is that you really never knew, and you really never know what works until you start testing. Doing business without advertising today is like winking at someone in the dark. You know what you're doing, but no one else does. So you have to advertise. You're going to see a quote later on from one of our customers and clients from the past that said, "If I don't advertise, I die." Wally Carlson at S&C Electric was a student of David Ogilvy, who knew a lot about advertising. And he measured everything. And I was very, very fortunate to work for Wally for 5 years, before we moved on into other things. And we did a lot of great work together. Today, people are spending I just throw these statistics up. You don't have to memorize this. I'm putting this up for you to understand just how big advertising is and how dangerous advertising is. The amount of money being poured into advertising today is phenomenal. It's like, we can use all this money for lots of other things, but people just spend money today because they know they have to do something. The problem is that they're spending it incorrectly, which I'm going to prove to you. Just look at the fourth or fifth bullet point. In 2019, U.S. consumers will spend more time on mobile devices than on TVs for the first time. This is very important. People are mobile now. It's on the phone. Your screens on your phone are smaller than your television. They're smaller than your computer, right? Newspaper advertising spending, of course, has plunged 70%. Because there's things like ad blockers. Ad blockers, this is the best ad blocker in the world. I recommend you get it. I recommend you put it on your browser. It's very important to have this because you can always turn it off and see what people are trying to do to you digitally. Ghostery, when I put that on I have that on all my browsers. And I'm an ad man and I love to see ads, but only when I want to see them. And that's what most people do. When's the last time you watched a television show and actually watched commercials? People DVR these things now, right? So what you see in Ghostery are the people who are trying to track you on the right. And that was then. And I took the same picture now, and there's even more people trying to find you in the digital world, right? So Ghostery blocks that. In fact, Ghostery is so powerful that if you do online banking, you got to turn Ghostery off in order to do your banking. It'll stop those types of transactions. How much data can you eat? That's one of my blogs. I recommend you read it. Advertising costs for small business operations that use Google. Small businesses are giving Google $9 to $10 grand a month. Jim, I don't spend that type of money. You might not spend that type of money, but I assure you there are hundreds of thousands of other businesses giving Google more than that. And the dirty little secret is, ladies and gentlemen, is you don't have to do that, as I'm going to prove to you. You don't have to give Google all your money. It's about content, but we'll get to that. The average person is bombarded with, did you ever go on a website and suddenly an ad pops up? It won't do that with Ghostery, but if you don't have Ghostery, an ad pops up based on what you were looking at. That's how devious advertisers have become. Actually, I should say agencies and media buyers. Advertisers are just giving their money away sometimes. There's the quote, if I don't advertise, I die. 70 to 80% of users ignore sponsored research. There's a study out there that they actually try to measure how many pixels are shown before you count it as an ad and you can charge the advertiser. I'm serious. The world's gone crazy with this virus thing, right? It's gone crazy. Let's admit it. We're going to talk about that. It's also gone crazy with advertising. People are just throwing money everywhere. Don't throw your money away. Don't throw your money away. I'm going to show you some things. Because if you are selling And I showed you some of the people in my audience. You're architects, you're selling services, designers selling services, manufacturers selling equipment, remodelers selling services, yada, 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 right? I'm selling things too, right? But if you're selling anything, you're advertising. And if you're not advertising, ladies and gentlemen, you're just not selling. So advertising, in my opinion, is advertising. I was on a Google panel once, and I asked professors of Northwestern University, what is advertising? They spent 5 minutes finally concluding that, Jim, what you're really asking is everything is advertising. I said, well, I could have told you that. But my clients are asking us clients are making really interesting decisions these days. And I use that word interesting very carefully because I don't think they're that interesting. They're just plain wrong. I mentioned the business basics earlier. How many customers do you have? How many customers do you want? Inevitably, someone says, not enough, Jim. And I agree with that. But that's the wrong answer. If you have too many customers, you're going to dissatisfy some of them. You're going to hurt some of them, right? You're not, and they're not. There's nothing worse than an unhappy customer, as far as I'm concerned. Nothing worse. So, what are your short-term goals? How many customers do you have? Advertising can change these answers to these questions, because if you study physics, and I'm sure there's many qualified people out there who have studied physics, right? For every action, there's a reaction. If you advertise, there will be a reaction. Well, Jim, what if I don't get anything for it? Zero. That's still a reaction. I was doing a project for one client where basically she said, I got really a low response rate. And I asked to see the direct mail package we had created. And the minute I was handed that package, right, I could tell from the weight of the envelope something was wrong. And I knew I was wrong. They just didn't put the right things in the envelope. I sliced the envelope open with my finger and showed her the empty envelope. And she said, and she was just like caught off guard. She said, what is this? It was one of the returns, right? I said, I think your mail room screwed up. They have folding machines and the danger you and I face, the danger the world faces, is in fact automation. I can talk to you endlessly about that, but then I'm going to lose track of my time. Here's the key to advertising. You see that guy in a chair? That's your customer. He doesn't know you. He doesn't know your company. He doesn't know your company's product or service. He doesn't know what your company stands for. He doesn't even know your company's customers, your record, your reputation. So what the hell you want to sell him? That's what McGraw-Hill used to run in a recession. That's what you cannot forget during this virus madness that we're facing. I guarantee you, ladies and gentlemen, that your current customers don't even know what you're selling. They don't even know the scope of your services. Just ask them. Take a little poll yourself. And the problem today, it's in the guy's hand. You have to do it mobily because people are more and more mobile. Don't forget that. I don't know who you are. When you answer that question with your advertising, and by the way, here's a quick quiz. What do you think the most important tactic is in your advertising arsenal? Do you know? Okay. Tim, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I think you can hear me now. Now I hear you. Great. Good. Anybody know what the most important tactic is in your arsenal? Yes. Your website. Yes. I see 4 people who said that. Have you been in my webinars before? Your website is your most important asset in advertising. And that helps build your image. When people hit your website, and you only have nanoseconds to make an impression, right? That creates an impression and builds your brand. I don't know your company. Your website can build your brand. I don't know your company's product or services. You put them on your website. I don't know what your company stands for. You put it in your website. It's your mission statement, etc. I don't know your customers' customers. You list them on your website. Everything leads to your website. And if you want to know about my reputation, it's in the testimonials on my website, or give the prospect some people to call. Then all of a sudden you start painting a picture of who you are. And remember this, ladies and gentlemen, everything is advertising. Everything is advertising. Here's the big problem. You are on the left, your customer is on the right. How do you get there? Wouldn't it be nice if you had a list of everybody who wanted to buy your services? You wouldn't have to do anything except pick up the phone or mail them a letter or whatever, send them an email. Here's the problem. Most of you go through channels. You go through, if you're a showroom, right? The manufacturer comes to you, you got to get to the customer. There's service people. You can go online, and there's these things that get in the way of you and your customer. If you're a manufacturer, you go through distributors, and that's a step away from your customer, from eventually the customer. Then when you try to communicate, you have all these channels, right? You have radio, television, internet, right? Apps, TikTok, boom, 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 boom. And you just can't, there's no clear path. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, the most important thing to remember about advertising is that you want to create a customer file. There is nothing you have that you own. Your talent, your website, there is nothing you own that's more important than your customer file, because everybody wants your customer file. It's about the experience. When you give your customers an experience they will remember, that's where you win the battle. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, everything is advertising. The way you answer the phone, the way you conduct yourself during a meeting, the way you respond to people in an emergency. You're advertising. You are actually advertising. It's absolutely true. Some people call it, well, aren't you talking about your brand? Well, what is a brand? A brand is you. It's your company, right? It's you. It's you. And you is how you experience people. You engage them. Rapid response to resolve. Automation. Automation will be the death of a relationship. How do you automate a relationship? You can't do it. You can't do it. So talk to people continually. You're waiting for an L train, right? Talk to some people. Talk to people. We have a client who's in men's grooming, right? I'm at the dealership waiting for my oil to be changed. The guy walks in, and he's got this full beard on. And I said, I'd like to talk to you about a beard. I got a client who makes, men's grooming products. And he's 15 minutes. I had a wonderful conversation. I learned a lot from just talking to that one individual. Now, well, Jim, aren't you afraid he'll think you're crazy? Well, maybe I am crazy, but I'm trying to gather information for my client. And you know what I did? I wrote up a little report about my conversation with him and sent it back, and guess what my client texted me back? Great, thanks, Jim. That's a point of contact. What am I advertising when I did that? What do you think I'm advertising? I'm showing him I'm hungry for information. I want to support him. I'm loyal. I think about him outside the 8 hours I work. Theoretically, I work more than that. Handwritten notes, welcome cards to customers, your website, as they said. Remember the Toyota recall in 2010? Some of you are too young to remember that. I remember that. There were look at any recall going on today. 2.3 million Toyota vehicles were recalled because of an accelerator, right? You know what Toyota did? They ran ads. They ran ads in the Wall Street Journal. Why? Because advertising was their point of view. They already knew that the reporters are going to take them apart. They already knew that they're going to get hammered by the press for the recall. So instead of just saying, well, just go ahead, hammer me, they ran advertisings with their point of view. And guess what? No, everybody forgot about the recall, right? And they sell more Toyotas now than anything else. Advertising is about your point of view. And unlike PR, where you send out a story and they can change it or whatever, today people avoid ads. They don't want ads. Or do they? I want to talk about that for 1 minute. If people say, I never watch ads, they're lying. Everything they watch is an ad for something. I'm going to prove that to you when we talk about social media in a minute. Your strategy has to be not to look like an ad anymore. You can't look like an ad. You got to look like something else, like content. It's content. No one likes to be sold, but yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I used to go to the Oak Theater in Chicago, and I used to watch scary movies. And if you have children, young children, or you remember when you had young children, children love to be scared, don't they? Oh my God. Well, I still can't understand that. Why young people like to be scared? Because they like to be scared because when it's all over, it's just a nightmare. They're still okay, but they love that feeling of fear, don't they? So you don't like to be sold, but yet you like to be sold, right? Here's an example. On buildings.com, if you Google ADA restrooms, if you Google ADA compliant restrooms, you're going to get the link to the article on the left. This is a story that resides on buildings.com, right? It's their content. What we did for our client is buy the article next to it. And you see what they did to me? They said article sponsor. So we're sponsoring that article. That article on the left, which continues, if you click, there's a click down there that says read more. If you click that read more, the client's entire white paper is right there. And you're going to say to yourself, well, what does that prove, Jim? Well, let me tell you what it proves. That website, that website, buildings.com, with that story, gets over 1,000 views, 1,000 every month. And you're going to say, well, Jim, didn't you teach in another course, hits are how idiots track success? I did, and I do, and I believe it. But in this case, I'm able to see the companies that are hitting that page. I'm able to see it. You know why I can see it? Because I have a reverse IP looking tracking code. Not only that, I can tell when they click the article on the right. I'm measuring everything. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what you should be doing. Measure everything. That's the only way you're going to look and prove to yourself that advertising works. Advertising is a marketing tactic. It's like Facebook. Here's what I'm going to prove to you right now. Every post you posted in your life on Facebook is an advertisement. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is. You know why it is? Why would you post that you had an operation and successfully completed your operation unless you wanted people to know about it? Why would you do that? You're advertising your faith in yourself, your good nature, whatever you do in a post, in a tweet. You're advertising, you're saying something, you're trying to influence something. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're trying to influence, you're advertising. If you're trying to engage, you're advertising. I'm serious. Point of view, it's not just about you, it's about your audience. Most people don't think about that. They think the world revolves around them. You know, if you study science, that thought went out when Galileo came in. And Galileo said, wake up, people. You think the world revolves around the earth? It doesn't revolve around the earth. It revolves around the sun, which revolves around this, which revolves. You're just a speck. It's not about you, it's about them. And it's about who you believe when you're reading this stuff, right? We don't pay for posting on Facebook. Well, Jim, there's where you're wrong, because certainly I'm not paying Facebook a damn dime. Well, you're paying Facebook in more ways than you even know. You're giving up your privacy. What do you think Facebook's doing with your data? What do you think Facebook's doing when you post anything? It's studying what you post, it's counting the words, it's looking at the words, and it's selling that information to people who want those words. I remember when Facebook was invented, don't you? Facebook came out and said, well, we are a social media company. We will never be about advertising. Oh, that's such a dirty word. Facebook today is one of the biggest advertisers in the world. WPP is the largest advertising agency in the world, ladies and gentlemen. Facebook is their biggest client next to Google. Google and Facebook are their customers and clients. And WPP buys from them more than anything. You see what I'm saying? Advertising is an investment. That's why you have to measure it. Do you own stocks? Don't answer that today. Or I heard today the futures are up, right? Did we get hammered yesterday? Of course we did. Yeah, but that's another thing. That's irrational stuff. But you measure performance. You don't buy stocks to lose money. You buy stocks to make money. And guess what you do when you buy advertising? You do it to make money. You don't do it to throw away money. When you build your website, when you think about your website, you're doing your website in order to sell your services and your products, etc., and you're doing it to make money. There is no other reason to do a website other than a vanity website. And even then, why do you want to be broadcast to people, right? So who is your audience? Who benefits from the offer? You see what I'm saying? These are thoughts you have to answer. Does your brand have a personality? You know, one of the big words these days is, what is your brand persona? Persona. Everybody has a persona. No, they don't. What is a persona? That's trying to generalize what and who you are. It's a gimmick. You're all unique. Every one of you. I looked at all your websites that I could before this meeting. You are all unique, right? And you have to show that uniqueness. That's part of your differentiation. Here's the big problem that's going on today, right? Now, you watch the news like I watch the news, and all the news talks about is this virus thing, right? But did you know that 29,000 people died of the flu last year? 29,000. And they had a vaccine, and if you took the flu shot like I did after I took the flu shot, somebody said, well, it's the wrong strain of flu. You're still going to get the flu. And boy, did I last year. But, who do you believe? When rationality hits irrationality, who wins? Should I repeat that? When rationality hits irrationality, who always wins? Irrationality. You cannot reason with the irrational. You can't do it. In advertising, you cannot let your emotions decide what you're going to do with advertising. Should I repeat that? You cannot be emotional about advertising. You have to be scientific. You have to be rational. Of course, the stock market is not rational, as you saw yesterday, right? But if you're in it for the long term, if you are in it for the long term, you never, ever lose in the stock market. Jim, that's a bold statement. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I work with companies who are in it for the short term, and I work for companies who are in it for the long term. This company I built, which is going to celebrate 30 years shortly, was in it for the long term, and that's why we're still standing. That's why we're still standing, because we understand the principles of the long term. That's why rational will win eventually, right? All right. The creative platform, what do? Demonstrate what? To whom? In order to accomplish what? That's what we want to do. All right? So as you think about that, demonstrate what to whom in order to accomplish what is the best example I can tell you of the creative platform, right? That's what a creative platform is. 1 second. I got to just make sure you can still hear me, right? Can you still hear me? Or have I not talked? Something happening, right? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Uh-uh. I think you can hear me, so let's continue. John Capos said, basically, the headline is critical to success, right? David Ogilvy said, half of your money is you invest in your headline. Half of the money that people invest in an ad is in the headline. Google says we love headlines, all right? There's a pattern here. Headlines are important. People read headlines. They like the bullet. Just give me the headline. Don't do it now, but after class, Google conversation from hell and see what happens. Google marketing to the aging in place and see what happens. And then Google, how do architects specify smoke detectors? Because those are common things that you would ask Google. Of course, not the first one, conversation from hell. It's about headlines. It's about what you put in your content in your website. It's about content. Well, Jim, how does Google work? Google wants money for that, don't they? No, they don't. They index everything, right? This conversation from hell, I show people that are aging in place marketing, and they say, how much do you pay Google for that? And I want to tell them, I can't tell you, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't pay a dime. And you can do the same thing with your content. It's very important to understand this. Because Google, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you a dirty little secret here. You ready to write it down? Google reads everything. Should I repeat that? Well, Jim, what about, I read about that, a post, a blog should be about 800 words. Wrong. You know why? Because Google reads everything. Google doesn't care it's 800 or 1,800 or 8,000. They don't care. They index every word you put on your website. The more pages you have, the more content you have, the more chances you have of getting to page one in Google when people search. And that's important. This next chart is the most important thing you can learn about advertising today. This was true 50 years ago, 100 years ago. This was true when the caveman came out of the cave. He just didn't understand it because he couldn't write. You have an overall audience. Whenever you produce a message, a certain amount of people will see it. Some of the people who saw it will read it. And some of the people who read it will actually inquire and raise their hand. Ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly what happens every time you do a post, a blog, a digital ad, a print ad. It doesn't matter. You mail a letter. If you mail a letter to 100 people, maybe 10 come back. That's 10%. And maybe from that 10%, one person will buy. You measure everything. But these circles don't change. Now, there's ways to increase people seeing your ad. Bigger is better. There's ways to increase people reading your ad, right? Or reading your advertisement or reading your website. But guess what? Would you rather be operated by the guy who does bullet points on your brain or the guy who read the book on your brain on how to operate on your brain? Bullet points work sometimes, but sometimes they don't. Here's 12 reasons you should advertise. And when I say advertise, I mean everything you do. Memory refresher. People don't remember what you did yesterday for them. You reach busy people. The continuity. You build brand loyalty. You target decision makers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is the reasons why you do what you do. Recognition. Jim, why should I post? Why should I even tweet? For people to start recognizing you. This is very important. And you don't enter, I've got a whole course on social media. You don't enter a channel just to enter it. You have to have a strategy, just like you do with advertising. You need a plan. And you start with your website. You need your unique specialization put in words, not pictures. Google doesn't see pictures unless you tag your pictures, unless you write a caption for your pictures. Google doesn't see those picture videos. You got to be, well, Jim, didn't you say we got to be visual? Yes, yes, yes. But being visual doesn't mean you go without the copy. That's the eternal struggle, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? You need to concentrate. You can't spray and pray. Concentrate your efforts. What is advertising? Everything. 70% of people, this is very important, go to Google first. And then, ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing more important on your website when you think about advertising than getting on page one in Google. And how do you get on page one? With content, with pages. Successful advertising has high visual appeal. There's only a few ads that capture attention. In fact, if you're using the Go Street, you don't even see the ads. So don't even worry about them. But remember what I said. Your website is one big ad. Seriously. And if you wonder what your website should look like, look at others in your field. And then look at somebody outside your field. Bigger is better. Frequency is all the difference. You cannot, I just read the other day, it takes 7 contacts before the person will even answer the phone. We do business constantly here now since the Depression of '09. I'm telling you right now, I just finished calls yesterday again for my round. I go through rounds, right? I left a dozen messages. But this time, the second message is different than the first one. Hi, this is Jim Nowakowski again. I called you last week. And then you leave. Then I followed up with an email, little tidbit. and you're constantly applying strategic pressure, slow pressure. You're not being a pest, but you're doing pressure, right? Okay. Successful advertising has the right audience, and remember, it's about them, not you, to use attract them. What you see on the right is what we formulated as the readership chain. What does that mean? Well, a chain is only as good as its weakest link, isn't it? So if you look at that, the first thing that attracts attention is usually something visual, graphic, right? Something visual catches your eye. Let's look at a website, right? If you look at any website, visual attracts first. Now, a visual could just be a big word, free, but usually it's a graphic. Then there's a headline. A headline happens. Some words happen. By me. Or on my way to the arena today, something happened. Something. You got a headline. They go back to the graphic again. They don't look at a new graphic. They go back to the graphic that they just saw. And subconsciously, they ask themselves, does that make sense with what I just read? I'm telling you, this is studied by Starch. This is studied by many research companies. This is what happens subconsciously and consciously. Try it yourself when we're done. Look at it, something visual, and then you're going to read something, and then you're going to go back to that visual. And if it doesn't make sense, guess what happens? You click, you turn the page, you do something else. But if it makes sense, you start reading the copy that's attached to whatever you're looking at. You start looking at it more. Sometimes you focus on the graphic a little more, or you start engaging with some of the content around the graphic. But you're going to eventually go back to that graphic once again. So you see the graphic and the copy have to work together. The graphic is the glue that's strung together, brings together all of the elements that people are interested in. And then, if everything works out, you respond. So ladies and gentlemen, you should know this too. Not everybody who goes through this process will respond. You won't get a response from everybody. Nobody hits 100%. Nobody. Okay? And you only get one time to make your first impression. Right? That's it. You get one shot. And then people go on. They either put you in a box, they judge you, or they go on. Or they say, well, yeah, I think I'd like to engage. The problem? People lack patience these days. Look what happened yesterday. Few rumors, some oil, crap going on. Next thing you know, the market crashes 2,000 points, right? It's what? There's no patience. I have no patience. You have to be patient. Get social. Always be on. Always be on. Do not have a down day. Make an objective and stick to it and test. If I had the answer to what you need, I'd give it to you in a moment's notice. But no one has the answer. Every market is different. Every offer is different. You should be testing constantly. Not everything works for everybody. And let me talk about SEO, search engine optimization. Why would you want to pay Google anything? I know there's no Google in the audience unless they're disguised, but I know there are no Google people in the audience. I was very sure about that. So I kept Google off, and why would you want to pay Google for anything, right? I don't want to pay Google for anything, and I don't think you do either. So you don't pay Google by developing your content. Your content, I'm repeating myself, I can't help myself, is the most important thing that you need to know about your website and about advertising. It's about the content, isn't it? You want eyeballs, but you don't want them elsewhere. You want them coming to your website. You want them coming to your website, right? That's why that native ad I showed you, the eyeballs are going to buildings.com first, but then they're coming to my website, my client's website. You drive the eyeballs by your content. I'm very serious about this, having studied it. So, let me see. Do I have any questions yet? Let's see. Questions. Go to the question pane. I hear you. No interruptions on my end. Oh, that was earlier. Doesn't look like I got any questions. How about this? There, raise his hand. Great. Okay. We're continuing. Let's continue. Ideas. Here's some ideas for you for advertising. Newsletters. Jim, do newsletters work? Of course they do. Look at it this way. There's so much data. What's another newsletter, right? But make sure your newsletter is different. Make sure it's engaging. Make sure it tells your story, your point of view. Use it as a memory. You know, those things we talked about before, memory refresher, build your brand image. Use that in your newsletter. Now, one of the questions is inevitably, should I print it and mail it, or should I PDF it and send it by email? The answer is both until you figure out which one works. People today are busy. Sometimes people, you've done this. You get an email newsletter, you print it out, and you read it later. Don't you do that? I think you do. So newsletters are very effective ways to do everything about advertising. Remind people, you showcase your latest projects, talk about things. Print ad and magazines are a little different. They're more expensive, and it depends which magazine. Most of you live in communities, for example, in Barrington, Illinois, which is a upscale residence, right? They have Quintessence Barrington. They have their own magazine. I encourage you to explore these magazines in your own hometown. Talk to people in your own hometown who run these magazines and ask them about their rates. And figure out what their distribution is. Figure out where they go to. Figure out what the other, say, can I call 5 advertisers? Can I talk to 5 people that advertise with your magazine? And then get them called, can I talk to them about what they did? And if they give you those 5 people, call them up. If they don't give you those 5 people, what do you think they're not giving you the 5 people for? I'm just asking. Look at your customer database. Your customer database, your file, that's your file that I told you about is your greatest asset. Study it. Try to find and ask yourself, where can I find similar types of people? Where are these people? Okay? Are they in the same zip code? Are they in a different zip code? Study your file. Pick up the phone and call these people. We have a way of analyzing files called RFM, recency, frequency, monetary value. Recency is when's the last time a customer bought from you, right? And if you sort your customer file highest to lowest, the most frequent to the least frequent, what do you think the bottom of the list is? Those are people waiting to be sold. Those are people you haven't touched in a long time and who haven't touched you. We used to have when I was in direct response agencies, and I was an account person for, the 8th largest direct response, we would go into a client and we'd say, give me your dead file. They would say, inevitably, what's that? I'd say, well, that's your customer file, the people who haven't bought from you in a while. Well, what do you mean by a while? I said, I don't know, 6 months, a year, it doesn't matter. First of all, they didn't know they had a customer file. Secondly, when they did have it, they had to sort it. And then before they did that, as I explained to them what they have to do, they said to themselves, what are you going to do with that? I said, I'm going to bring some of them to life. I know I don't have that power to bring people from the dead, but I can bring those customers to life by just talking to them again. If you haven't talked to somebody in a year, right, what do you think is going to happen when you call them again? Especially if they were a good customer. They might say, well, who are you? Right? There's unbelievable things that can happen once you start calling the dead file. So look at your customer file. Do research. Research is very important. The world isn't static. It's proactive. It's moving. It's fluid. Do research. Things change. Look what's happening now with this virus stuff, right? Right? Antimicrobial people who make antimicrobial, things should be going crazy. I went to Costco the other day. I can't even get toilet paper, for heaven's sakes. People are crazy, right? Flyers. Flyers are important. Little tidbits, little mailings. Just keep people engaged. Here's the latest story I did about the church that I just built. Here's some key things they never thought of, and they're so glad they came to me. Those are not the words, but you get the idea. Special offers. If you're a showroom, I have several showrooms in the audience today. Have an event. Create an event, which we'll get to in a minute, and have people come in with a special offer. Partner with one of your manufacturers. They're dying to work with you to get at your customers. Your customer file is what they want. Don't give it to them, but Do an event. Collaborate with these companies. Do a white paper. There's so many white papers today. Everybody's an expert, right? Well, Jim, I don't even know what to write about. Write about from your experience. Your experience is so rich. You have, ladies and gentlemen, you have so much to offer people. I was talking to an architect the other day, and he said, Jim, I just don't know I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have anything unique to do. By the time we finished a half hour later, he had 10 things that he does to schools that no other architect does. Right? It's the same thing when I met very early in my career an application engineer from a major electrical company. And he said, Jim, I don't know what you're going to write about circuit breakers. There's nothing new in circuit breakers. Direct quote, right? And I was a technical writer at the time. 8 articles later, 8 published articles later, he's being invited to Singapore to talk about the latest and current limitation. Ladies and gentlemen, it's all how you look at the problem. People are waiting for your rich, unique experience. So give it to them. Don't give them the star, but give them enough to bring them in. Service updates, letters, programs, referrals. Referrals are golden. Most of my business comes from referrals. If I get a referral, it's almost like it's a locked and loaded thing, right? But they're so hard to get sometimes, aren't they? Aren't they? And when you get a referral or when you refer, that's called networking, isn't it? Isn't it? And isn't networking a godsend, right? We all benefit from that. Direct mail, samples. Go to some of you showrooms, right? And even some of you architects, right? Go to a manufacturer and say, listen, I've got a client that wants to see three of your samples of X, Y, and Z. Can you send me one of each? What do you think they're going to do? What do you think they're going to do? If they say, well, I don't know, I'm short of samples this week. Oh, wait a minute. Can you fill out a qualification forms to get these samples? They're going to give them to you. And, product demonstrations is what sells. So manufacturers are dying to give you samples. All you have to do is ask. I'm serious. And if you don't ask, shame on us, right? We have to ask for things. If you don't ask, people are not going to give it to you. I asked Comcast the other day for a discount. I got it immediately because they thought I was going to go to AT&T. You got to ask. Got to ask. Your portfolio will travel. Well, if it's on your website and you can pull it up on your device, whether it's an iPad or your phone, do it. An event. Successful advertising has a reward, which is the offer, a proof, and a selling proposition. Reward, backup, and a selling proposition. It does this, okay, you need an offer, right? And you got to back it up, and then you got to have a selling proposition. What is that? Well, do this, and this will happen, right? You do it by talking person to person, being easy to read, stressing your service, and reflecting you. And when I mean you, I don't mean you personally. If you have a company, it's got to reflect your company. It's got to be about your company. So you have to know what your company culture is, what your company stands for. Just like the old man in the chair was asking, I don't know you. I don't know your company. I don't know what it stands for. I could recite that in my sleep, right? Those are the questions. I'm doing that now. I'm trying to convey Interline Creative Group through my voice, through my gestures. You think I'm sitting down, I'm standing up. I'm jumping all over the room. Almost pulled the phone out when I had that little thing there before. So some helpful tips as we wind down this webinar on advertising. Not all leads are the same. What does that mean? That means that not all leads are the same. When you get leads, some of them are just kicking your tires. They're not going to buy. Some of them are very serious. Some of them are not. And it's up to you to filter those out. But you have to treat them equally at first. There's no way you can discern a serious buyer from a non-serious buyer. Can't do it. You could, however, set limits to how much you invest of your time. You know, ladies and gentlemen, the only non-renewable resource in the world. You're going to say that I'm wrong, but I'm not. I thought this through. The only non-renewable resource in the world is time. You don't have an unlimited time. Well, what about water, Jim? Well, yeah, but you know what? By the time we're gone and by the time our children are gone, they'll probably figure out how to make water or ship it in from Mars. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your time. You only have 24 hours in a day. The problem is you don't know how many days you got left or how many hours. So you have to make decisions. You have to make decisions on how much of this time, your time, you're going to spend on these activities. That's the danger of automation. Automation comes to you and promises you, I can cut your time in half, right? I can cut your time and save you a load of time. And guess what happens then? You get what you pay for. I had a client this morning. I was talking about the latest decision they made on a certain product that they wanted to launch and how they're going to go about launching it. And I stopped him in his tracks and I said, well, now I've got it. 0 plus 0 equals 0. If you don't do anything and you add something to you didn't do it, you're going to get 0. You understand? You have to be a mathematician too. But you have to not only love what you do, you have to understand time is money. Every minute you spend doing something has to have an ROI. Well, Jim, that doesn't work with my personal relationships, does it? Of course it doesn't. Or does it? Or does it? In a personal relation, you're just giving. You're not taking. You're giving, right? In a business relationship, you're giving and taking. You got to take. Each individual has different requirements. What are those requirements? Sometimes we here at Interline try to think about our services and say, is there some way to package these things? Is there some way to go to market with a package? You know, a $2,000 package. House is trying that with some of you designers. And I don't want to talk about that now, but be careful of those house offers. So you have to really think about what's different, right? Each responded for a particular need and a requirement. And they're not all the same. You have to treat them individually, as an individual ready to buy, or you lose the opportunity in potential new markets. You cannot go with a preconceived notion into a market and say, this is how it's done. Very early in my career, one of the major brands in the industry, right? When I first started working for them, and I worked for them for 20 years before I resigned the business. Very early in my career, I was sitting in a meeting, in one of the first meetings we had, and the president of the company looked at me and he's telling me about their company and the mission, and he said, is your building good enough for his brand? And he named his brand. And I thought about that for a long time. Is your building good enough for my brand? I know what he was saying. He's very proud of his brand. He built it, it's a very old brand, established brand, big distribution, right? But is your building good enough for my brand? That is absolutely the wrong point of view. They're still standing today, ladies and gentlemen, but they're not going to be standing for long with that type of attitude, because it's not about you. It's about them. The building doesn't care. If your brand isn't available, they'll just buy another brand. That's another story. So you have to you have to be open-minded. Well, all architects are the same. Oh, they're not. No, they're not. And now we come to the end of this presentation, and I think we have 8 minutes. Before I go into the questions, I have a poem. May I recite it to you? He who has a thing to sell and goes and whispers in a well is not so apt to get the dollars as he who climbs a tree and hollers. Isn't that a beautiful poem? Let me repeat that. He who has a thing to sell and goes and whispers in a well is not so apt to get the dollars as he who climbs a tree and hollers. I read that on a sugar packet many, many years ago. It's the best advertising advice I can get to you. So, ladies and gentlemen, get out there and holler. Holler. Don't shout too loud because you don't want to turn people off. Okay. Now, here we go. Question. Let's see what we got here. Oh, hey, Dean, how you doing? I see you in the audience. You must have came late, buddy. Thanks for coming. Doug O'Gord. Doug is here. Okay, good deal. Glad everybody's here. Let's see what we got. Any questions? Here's a question. How should businesses be using video platforms? Doug, thanks for that question. Ladies and gentlemen, video is the thing right now. Hearst has a whole building, like 7 floors of video studios, filming constantly and pouring out video. Video is essential. YouTube is essential. We just did a study on influencer marketing, which I should probably write a course on, because influencers are actually taking the place of media outlets. You understand what I just said? Influencers who have maybe, 10, 100, 1 million followers are taking the place of media outlets who have millions of followers and many, many things, because there's so many influencers now. So the answer to your question, you should use it. It should be starting to be second nature. We were very early in the video game. There's videos on our website because people like to watch videos. I couldn't believe some of the videos people watch when we started investigating lately the influencer marketing. We have people. We have employees here who never watch television. They only watch YouTube. And when I asked that, I said, well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't watch TV. I DVR to you, right? I watch streaming. I'm streaming with Amazon Prime and Netflix, right? We all do that. But we tape some shows. We don't watch it like we used to watch it because we hate commercials. But video and YouTube, I'm telling you right now, when I can't see a broadcast through a network right now, I know I can go to YouTube and find them. That's what I do. So video is very important. Why video? Because imagine you're an architect and you're designing, you finished your design, it's a wonderful, and your facility person is happy. What better way to express that as a testimonial than to film the happiness of your owner client? What better way to show during the construction than take a video camera and then splice it up in the B-roll and demonstrate what you did to build it? If you're a showroom, what better way to show the event than have somebody film the event, cut it and splice it and edit it together and throw it up on your website and say, look what this event did now. We're having another event so-and-so. Absolutely. Video, video, video. But do not neglect the content with words. Remember, Google doesn't read the video. Anyway, guess who owns YouTube? Shh. You know who owns YouTube? You can put it in the chat box if you know. If you don't know, I'll tell you who owns it. It's the same people who control your search function. Google, right? These people are not stupid. They're buying these platforms that people use for a reason. Can I tell you what the reason? It's not to help humanity. It's to make money. It is absolutely to make money. You want to make money, but not by giving it necessarily Google. So I hope I answered your question there. Great question. All right. And you also answered about Instagram. Same thing. TikTok, I would be very wary about it because the Chinese own TikTok. Our government is still looking at that platform. Seriously. I would be very careful of TikTok. I know young people love it. I'd stay away from it. It's not for business. Ask yourself this question, Doug. Everybody in the audience. Is the platform going to help my business because my current customers are on that platform? Are your current customers on that platform? Look at it. Do your current customers use video? Yes, they do. Look at it. Do your current customers use TikTok? I don't think so. Don't use it. Let's see. Oh yeah, Tim, you answered Google. Yes, sir. You win a Starbucks card. Let's see. What do we got? Any other questions? Let's see. No questions. No questions. No questions. Okay. Final slide. You ready, ladies and gentlemen? You can take your seatbelts off now. This will not be a quick ride. Thank you. I was having breakfast with a former CFO, good friend of mine, major company, and I met him I've known him for 20 years, and he says, Jim, what people forget to say is thank you. And I said, well, Kevin, not only do I never forget to say thank you, I keep saying thank you too much till my wife tells me to shut up. No, I'm just kidding. It's on every invoice we send out. Thank you for your business. Thank you for being in my audience. I sincerely appreciate it. Any questions, you can call me. There's my phone number. There's my email. You can evaluate this. We'll give you a copy of our guides. You can follow me on Twitter, please. I'm a Twitter guy. They call me Mr. Twit. I love Twitter. And you can also see these courses, not this one in particular, on the continuingarchitect.com. That's a website controlled by Architectural Products, one of the major publications in the industry. And they have 6 of my courses. You just got to go there and look for them under business. You'll see 6 of the courses. They also carry AIA credit. I have a special request for everyone. If you go to that website, www.research.net/r/ICG designers, I'm always looking for topics to develop. I've got a great one from one of the NKBA people, the administrators there. We were talking last week. She gave me a great idea. So I encourage you to do that, and that would be great. I see a couple more hands raised. Let's see. Nice job, Jim. Thank you. Thank you, Dean, for being in the audience. All right. On that note, I will end it. I'll leave this up for a couple of minutes, and you have a great, productive day. And remember, start hollering when you're advertising. Thank you so much.